Good morning and welcome to the inaugural Wine Sales Symposium. I'm Lisa Adams-Walter, and I'm honored to moderate this session, Boosting Brands, Traffic, and Sales with Digital Wine Remarketing. I'm a publicist, content creator, and published writer, and I've worked in wine, food, and the arts, and I'm a native of California's wine country. So I've seen the cyclical nature of the wine market and the need for wineries to constantly evolve and respond to market demands. There's no time like now. Clearly, as wine marketers, we are facing unprecedented challenges. We see the gloom and doom in the headlines every single day. So it's time for us to dig deep, band together, and shift the currents. I'm not going to go through the challenges. We know what they are. We all talk about them every day in terms of the economy and job market and shifting generations and preferences and competition from other segments of the beverage industry. But all of these things are requiring that wineries and wine brands pivot, adapt, and evolve. Wineries need to become super creative. And just when we think we have it all figured out, things change, particularly in the digital marketplace. Today, we have two experts that will speak about the changes in the landscape of digital marketing. They, too, are fighting the battle daily, and each from a different perspective. Together, we have worked to create a concise program. They will each speak for about 8 minutes, and we are leaving ample time for Q&A, so get your questions ready and send them up. I'm a huge fan of both of these gentlemen, and I'm truly honored to be here with them. Wine on the Web's Chief Strategy Officer, James Marshall Berry, has been consulting in the wine online space for wineries since 2009. I have found that he has keen insights that are always practical, affordable, often completely free, and extremely valuable. And he's a rock star. He's a musician. I've seen him play, which is always fun. Eric Schwartzman is a published author. He's recently published The Digital Pivot, so I can't wait to read this. He's a PR pro, digital marketing expert who founded Schwartzman and Associates. His experience crosses several industries, yet helps wineries boost Google tasting room rankings, resulting in more foot traffic, unravels the puzzle of driving online visitors to product pages, and brings expertise in Google algorithms that broadcast relevant content. He authored a compelling article in Fast Company just last week, so check it out, take it a read. It's entitled, How Generative AI is Clouding the Future of Google Search. We'll begin today with James Marshall Berry.
Thank you very much. This is new to me here with this thing. Let's see if we get our slide. We do. What we're going to talk about today, for my portion, is if you're going to have a successful direct-to-consumer strategy, make sure that the place you're sending people to execute that strategy works, is clean, your website loads fast. If you have a website that's keeping you from doing the things that you're trying to do, then why are you even bother creating a digital strategy? So one of the things that we hear a lot is, how do I make my site run faster? And there are three things that 99% of the time are a problem with every website. That is large image sizes, these massive images that are PNGs, external scripts, which we'll talk a little bit more about, and then large inline CSS files, which is the styles, the fonts, the colors, the look and feel that come with a lot of pre-built themes. Unfortunately, if your site is 5 or even 3 years old, it's likely you need a new website. And there's a number of reasons for that. Mainly it's the way people interact with websites, but also the fact that technology moves fast. The things that were 3 years ago and things that were 5 years ago, they're obsolete. So you can take advantage of that by having a new website with new features and technology. Now, your website, it's a myth out there, and it makes me nuts. It's a black eye on our industry. Websites don't need to cost $85,000. I mean, you can pay that. It'd be great, but for $20,000 to $25,000, you can get a website that will do literally just about every single thing you need it to do. And I beg to think that a $85,000 website is going to sell $65,000 more dollars worth of wine than a $25,000 website. So, think about when you're thinking about getting a new website, think about cost, because with these days with the industry and the state of the industry, you don't need to spend that money. Is it time to move to WordPress? If you're not using WordPress, you probably should think about moving to it. And we're talking WordPress.org, which is self-hosted WordPress that you manage that lives on a server, not WordPress.com. and not Square, not Wix, not Weebly. Those sites are all walled gardens, which what that means is you're just not allowed to do certain things that are outside of the rules. You don't have complete control of your site. If you decide to spend all this money building something in Square and now you want to move it, you can't because it's all living on Square's servers. So if you do decide to move to WordPress, do not use a pre-built theme. That is one of the reasons you get large style sheets and you have a bunch of bloated code, which is going to slow your site down. It's like I have a brand new website. We got to Steam. It's pre-built. We're up and running in 3 days, but my website it runs like it's just crawling. That's because your theme is bloated. Have a developer build you a custom website. And scripts. Scripts is huge. Everybody wants a script. Basically, is like you get something from Redshirt, from Google Fonts, your Adobe Typekit, or Salesforce. Here, just have your web developer put this in the head of the code. Every single one of those things calls and talks to the mothership and loads before your site loads. So you really want to have all that in Google Tag Manager. Eric's going to be talking a lot more about the Google tools. That way, one script loads and loads all these other scripts, and it makes your website even that much faster, and that's one of the hurdles of not making it slow. Let's see if we've got this. Look at that. It's working just like it should. You want to optimize your site for mobile. We've talked about mobile first forever. It's really time to stop fiddling around and really start thinking about mobile. Designs tend to be built on these large screens that 60% of your users are never actually seeing. Your 60% of your people are going to be showing up there using a mobile. So you want to find out what portion of the sites are people even using, going there on their phones, which is why you want to run analytics, which Eric will talk about. So you find out that maybe even 50% of your website isn't even being looked at by people on phones. Why are we loading that for mobile devices? Why are we even putting that out there? And with the new technology and the new software that's available, especially with page builders for WordPress, you can customize your mobile experience. It used to be that developers insisted that the desktop and mobile experience should be exactly the same for all users. I beg to differ with that these days. I want to deliver a mobile experience that is set up for my mobile users. And to find out where they're going and what they're doing, you need to know what those things are. And you can build those with a quality page builder. The other thing is multiple devices. There are a litany. There are thousands of combinations of this. So if you look at it and go, oh, the website looks good on my phone. Okay, well, I'm running an iPhone 12 running the latest iOS. What does it look like on a Google phone? What does it look like on a Samsung phone? Have everybody in your office look at the website on their actual phone device and have them do it often. Find out, oh, look, this pop-up, I can't even get past. So you're sending traffic. Customers won't tell you a lot of times that your website is killing them. So you test it on the phone and go, well, this works fine on my iPhone. But on this Google phone, this pop-up shows up and I can't make it go away. That's something that needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be dealt with per platform for each one of these. And video. Nobody's watching your 1.5-minute video that's on the homepage. Don't force people to watch your videos. They're not even going to load on mobile, and that's going to slow your site considerably. With all the social media options, things like video and a lot of other immediate content can be done that on your social media channels. And then for our last slide, and I'll be here all day. If we want to talk more about any of this stuff and about your particular website or this in general, I'll be around just well, we can sit down and have a conversation. But what is your website for? I mean, obviously, okay, no, we want to sell wine. We want to book visitors. Or maybe you don't want to book visitors. Maybe you don't have a brick and mortar facility. Make sure your website is set up to do exactly what its primary purpose is. So if it's sell wine, make it easy to buy wine. If it's come to see events, make it easy to go to those events. The other two things I'm talking about is your DNS settings. And a year ago, nobody even knew what DMARC or SPF or any of these web domain settings are until just recently. It is important that if you're sending out direct communications to your consumers or your hopeful consumers, that your communication actually lands in their inbox, not their junk file. If your DNS, this is your domain, their settings on your domain are not correct, mail servers are going, I don't know they're not allowed to send from this domain, and they're putting it in junk. It's important to have your DNS records. And just because you've added DNS records properly for MailChimp doesn't mean that you've added them properly for WineDirect or for Commerce7. Every single one of these has DKIM keys, SPF records that all need to be added. And one last thing I want to touch about is ADA compliance. It's still a thing. There are still ADA lawsuits. It's going to come back. If you are planning on building a website, make sure one of the checks in the box is that you are building your website for its functionality to be up to WCAG 2.1 compliant, because otherwise, don't spend money on a website that's not ADA compliant, because that is all going to come back. And that is my 3-slide presentation. Now, like I said, we're happy to talk more about any of those things later.
Thank you. So if you saw the keynote this morning, one of the topics was how do you connect? How do you connect with consumers if you're DTC? Well, one of the ways you connect, obviously, is through search, through social, through your website. So I want to try to be as useful as I can to you for this short presentation. So help me out, if you would, by answering a few questions for me so I can tailor my remarks to your level of knowledge about technology. So by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with SERPs? SERP, and it stands for Search Engine Results Pages. SERPs. Okay. And then I'm going to ask a couple more. How many of you have ever heard of something called schema markup? A few people, okay. And then the last one is map packs. Map packs, okay. So I've got one compatriot here in the audience with me. Actually, two, sorry about that. Thank you, that's helpful. So let's start with a discussion of local search. So how many of you have tasting rooms? Okay, so if you have a tasting room, local search is what drives traffic to your tasting room. Someone brings up their cell phone, they're visiting, so Google knows where they are, and they don't search the name of your winery, they just search wineries or wineries near me. That's it. And then if you look at my slide here, I've got an example of a map pack, and it's outlined in red and it says map pack, and that's just in universal Google search results. So if you were to take out your phone right now and search wineries in Google, you're going to get at the top of your results this map pack. And there's going to be 3 results in the map pack. And 90% of the traffic is going to go to those 3 wineries in the map pack. So even if you were ranking number 1 in organic search, which I've highlighted in purple there, you see, it wouldn't even really matter because people are going to go to the map results. And the way that Google decides who's going to be in the map results is completely different than how they decide who's going to be in the universal results. So map rankings and organic rankings are determined by different algorithms. They're completely different games. And map rankings are what drives traffic to the tasting room, and tasting room is, it all starts there, right? You convert the club member, you sell on-premise wine, that's where you get a cut. We were hearing from Ben this morning, we want to have one-on-one relationships with our customer. Well, no better place to do that than the tasting room, and no better way to get them there through local search. Organic rankings, on the other hand, are what would drive wine e-commerce sales. So if you want to sell a case or any product on your website to a consumer, that's organic rankings, right? So you've got these 2 to worry about. Now, on the right-hand side of the slide is a map. And each of the positions on the map has a different number. And what that means is if you were standing in any of those positions in the map and you searched keyword wineries, right, that's where the client that I'm running this search for would rank. And you can see I've blurred out their names so as not to embarrass anybody. But these are the top 5 ranking wineries for keyword wineries searched on a mobile device in the Sebastopol area. So the center of my map is the center of Sebastopol. And so you can see all that really matters is a 1, 2, 3, because no one is going to click over to more results. Well, a few people will, but very few. The majority of the traffic is going to 1, 2, 3. So on the map, you can see 1, 2, 3 are different shades of green, right? Now, this map you're looking at is for the top ranking winery for keyword wineries with a 6-mile grid around Sebastopol. You can see I've highlighted them, and there's the one that's showing. So because it's a rural area, it's not possible to dominate the entire grid, right? There's too much going on there. But this is probably about as best as you can do, right? Now, it's not enough to just have 1s, 2s, 3s. You want to have your 1s, 2s, 3s where people are. So you want your 1, 2, 3 in Sebastopol, right, at the Barlow, right? Because if you have 1, 2, 3s in rural areas, that's not going to get you any customers, right? So this is really a very important thing to understand about search. If you want to connect with customers, right, this is how you do it. So we hear a lot about connecting with customers through content marketing and public relations and search engine optimization. And the point I want to make here is search engine optimization works best when it's combined with another marketing tool. Search engine optimization by itself is usually skullduggery, it's trickery, it's snake oil, it's something that doesn't last. If you want rankings with integrity that are going to last, you want to link it to something that's going to be there forever. Now, one of the ways that Google decides who to rank is based on who's linking to your website. Because it's easy to say great things about yourself, but it's tougher to get other people to reference you. So Google treats links like recommendations, like votes, and ranks search results accordingly. So the way you're going to get those links is by creating content that's going to resonate with your consumer. And a lot of people, they'll launch a blog and they'll do all these promotional posts about how great they are. Well, that's a house organ. No one cares, right? You've got to think, what information do people need to make a decision of what tasting room to visit? And what information do they need that's not out there already? Because if the information's already out there, you got to do better information than the people who have it out there already. They're in the content business, you're in the wine business, right? So better to find a vacuum. What's a piece of information that people would like to have about wineries that's just not out there? And then create that information. So this is a case study. This is a data visualization from a report I wrote called the Sonoma Wine Tasting Report. Some of you may have seen it. I've done it for a few years now for a client. And what it is a list of all wineries and what the average price is, how many of them require reservations, how many don't, how many have tastings with their pairings, how many don't. And it's divided, it's anonymized, but it's by each neighborhood and each AVA. So now if you search, right, you're going to find this content, you're going to find average pricing, you're going to find who takes reservations, who doesn't, and it's going to help you make your decision on where to go. And something like this, right, combined with a little public relations and SEO, allowed us to get backlinks from the San Francisco Chronicle, the Press Democrat, the Gazette, Wine Business Monthly, and you can see I appeared on CNN talking about the results of the report. And so this type of a thing is how you engineer a news trend that has a snowball effect that gathers its own force and produces several hundred links. So when you think about content, don't think so much just about content for my consumers. Think about content that people who are creating content will want to link to. And then the last slide I want to show you, this is a brand new development. And this isn't about local, this is about e-commerce for wine. So these are search results on Google, just a regular Google search, and I'm saying buy at the beginning, right? I say buy Pinot Noir. So when I use the word buy at the beginning of my search phrase, Google knows, oh, this is a shopping search. It now loads these filters that I've outlined in pink here on the left. Looks like Amazon. And you can select the filters to filter your results. Then there's a product grid. It's not at the top of the screen these days, but I could see it becoming at the top of the screen at some point. And each of these product grids has product tiles on it, right? And if you select a tile, and I've highlighted in green the one that I selected. In this case, it's Bella Gloss, Clark and Telephone Pinot Noir from the Bella Gloss website. Rather than taking you over to the website of the winery, which is how search used to work, it loads the product detail page right there in the search results. Right? You never leave Google. You're there the whole time. And then you see in the bottom of the search results, this product knowledge panel that's got the product detail page is a merchant list. So now Google not only is not going to give you the traffic, they're not sending the traffic to your page, they're going to load your page in search results. And by the way, they're going to show everyone who's selling your product right there on your product page in that merchant list with comparable pricing. And now I want to just point out one last thing. You see this little size button at the top there? If you select by size, right, it reshuffles the list. And whoever's got that information there is going to be the one that shows up and the one that doesn't. This is powered by a type of code called schema. And there's more information at schema.org. It is very technical. But we're at a point now where if you're not publishing schema on your website in the back end, you're not going to show up on Google. You're not going to connect because they're not going to find you. And this has been something I've been arm wrestling with clients over for years now. Oh, you got to publish schema. And, you know, wineries are resistant to investing in content because they're busy and it's an expense. But the truth is, if you don't embrace schema at this point, you run the risk, you know, of not even being seen. So I guess just to wrap up my comments and then we'll get into questions. I know there are a lot of challenges in the wine business now, but I would say, you know, this isn't just about surviving the current challenges. This is really about thriving in a new era, right? It's about using digital tools to tell your story, connect with your community, and create a legacy that will endure, right? Not something that's going to be here today, gone tomorrow. I believe we are living through a digital renaissance, and it's a journey of innovation, adaptation, and commitment. And it requires the same level of commitment and love that you put into your vines. Thank you.
We have some questions. I'll begin. This was directed mostly at you, James. It says, does the 80% of mobile users include tablet users as well, or is that a separate demographic?
I think it was 60. Is it to what users?
Oh, pardon me. Does the 60% of mobile users include tablet users as well, or is that a separate demographic? Are the tablet users a separate demographic?
That would be considered a mobile device, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I use a tablet. This is my tablet. And I would say probably half of the sites that I go to support the tablet and half don't. It's really frustrating. I don't think there's a lot of traffic on tablets.
I don't think there's a lot of tablet view, and most tablets have their breakpoint set. Most sites have their breakpoint set, and a breakpoint means when does the screen start responding to mobile? When does it start looking and stacking like on a phone? Most sites have their breakpoint set, so the tablets basically show the desktop display. You can set your breakpoints to custom so that if the average iPad that's 768 wide, you say if it gets down to 770, show me mobile. So you can tailor that a little bit if you want everybody on a mobile device to see the mobile version. But I think for the most part, tablets are considered, you know, they display it as desktop.
Here's another question, and hopefully I get this right. It says, how do we think of SEO in the world of AI where there is just one answer instead of a search result?
Yeah. So, you know, there was a big announcement this week from Google at their developers conference. You know, they've been playing around with how they're going to sort of rejigger search results based on artificial intelligence. I mean, I believe they're on the ropes right now. Search traffic was down about 5%. The CEO in the current earnings report did not break out search traffic as a separate number. And I mean, you see how the search experience is fragmenting. I mean, we're starting to go to ChatGPT and ask questions there, sort of to figure out what we want to ask. And then we might go over to Google to sort of fact check it. But, for younger consumers, they're increasingly going to TikTok and doing searching for consumer reviews there. So they may find out about a product on Amazon, or they may find out about a recording artist on Spotify, but then they're going to go over to TikTok or Instagram to look at consumer reviews. It makes sense because I think, one of the things Ben said this morning in his talk is that, we want to be authentic. And authentic has sort of become a catch-all phrase for connecting with people digitally. But I would say maybe a better word is we want, as a consumer, impartial information. Because we know everybody's trying to sell us something. So we just want real information from real people. And I guess the difference with TikTok and Instagram is you actually see someone giving their take on something. Now, that person may be an influencer. I mean, when I spoke to a friend of mine's daughter about this, she said, yeah, I don't want to hear from influencers. I just want to hear from real people. But clearly, that is now a piece of the puzzle, because even if you rank number one, and even if they go to your website before they buy, they may go over to TikTok and Instagram and search, the name of your wine with salmon and see if something comes up. So you really do need to cover that base as well. In terms of AI and web search, this is my belief, okay? I don't have it, it's just my gut here. I think organic search is on its way out. I think searching and getting a list of links is less useful than searching and getting these carousels that have videos and pictures and, little snippets. I think that ultimately is going to win the war. But in terms of how you get visibility in generative AI, it's a totally different game than it is for SEO. And it's actually being called generative engine optimization. So write that down, generative engine optimization, or GEO, and read the Princeton report on it. And you'll see there are things you can do to optimize a website to appear in large language model results and AI. I think we are at the precipice of a huge change in search, and I think it's because of AI.
Tied in with this, beyond optimized SEO, what do you recommend as a baseline approach for AdWords or other SEM?
I think that would be up your alley. We don't. I don't run AdWords campaign. We have Google specialists that do that.
Can you repeat the question?
Beyond optimized SEO, what do you recommend as a baseline approach for AdWords or other SEM?
Yeah, so I'm not a paid guy. I don't do advertising. I'm organic exclusively. So I can't really, I do consult paid analytics to figure out what to SEO for, but I'm not a PPC guy, pay-per-click guy, so I really can't answer that either.
Google Ads has changed considerably. 3 or 4 years ago, Google Ads was a hole in the internet you threw money into and didn't know what happened or anything that happened. And now they've changed. I think it's called Google Ads now, and you can go and you can target and buy specific keywords. You can use special deals on your site, on your sponsored links. You can get visibility, especially locally, for as little as $50 a month, if that's what you want to do, or you can spend $20,000 a month, and really dive deep into it. But all of the horror stories of we spent $1,000 a month on Google Ad and we didn't sell one bottle of wine, that's kind of in the past. I think Google finally realized people aren't buying this game anymore. So you can manage a small Google Ad campaign for not much money and play with it yourself and see your results within all of your Google search tools that you should have connected to your website and should be using.
Does Commerce 7 use schema, or is that something we have to apply ourselves?
Typically that would be something that would be deployed into the website itself, into the header pages like the shop page. I believe you could probably make a schema and suck it in from Commerce 7 as metadata, that platform specifically. But schema is typically a list of code that lives in the header of your template file or in a file elsewhere the headers, the various headers, like say you have the homepage template and your shop template and your this template, and you might have a schema for each individual page. It'll call in that file, so maybe you maintain that file elsewhere. But typically that's maintained on the top level domain, which Commerce 7, with their JavaScript will integrate right in. You don't have to use a subdomain like some of the other e-commerce platforms. But typically I believe that would probably go with the website itself.
It's tough because, you have these vertical solutions like, Commerce 7 and Wine Direct and these other big commerce, these tools that are designed to help people that don't have coding experience. But then these changes that get announced so quick. And often the tool can't turn the ship quick enough to implement at the level they're looking for. To make it in those e-commerce SERPs that I showed you earlier, you don't just need regular schema, you need something called product variants. So the size, if it was apparel, it'd be the color, but different aspects of a case, a 3-pack, whatever it might be. And so you need it at that level. There are tools that can generate schema for you. If you're a small winery, you probably don't have that many SKUs, and you could probably generate schema in ChatGPT. Right? You could just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, I want to have schema with product variants. What categories do I need? Give me a list. And then it'll give you the list, and you copy and paste that into a document. And then you answer all the questions. And then you copy it again, and you paste it back to ChatGPT, and you say, hey, ChatGPT, can you turn this into schema for me? And then you take that, and you email it to James, and he puts it in your header code. Or, if you have a way to do header code, if you're a WordPress person, there's a really easy plugin called Header Footer Code Manager, and you could just paste it into there and apply it to that page. That would be sort of a poor man's way of making it happen quickly.
One thing I want to point out too is that a schema is not something you set and forget, much like SEO. We inherit sites sometimes and their schema is still bragging about their 2017 vintages, which aren't even for sale anymore and aren't even on the website. So you have to pay, if you're going to utilize schema, it's also very important to make sure it's up to date. When you have new releases, those are added so that your offerings are relevant on the website and not showing something that nobody can buy and that doesn't exist anymore. So it's something you need, somebody needs to do this, and they need to do it ongoing. So it's not just to set it and forget it.
Pro tip, you can actually validate schema. So if you have schema, you can just search schema validator and test your schema in that validator. You just cut it and paste it into the tool and you hit go. And then if it doesn't work, you call James.
It's like an oil change or tire rotation for your website. Just put it on your calendar, right?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of geared on when you release. When you release new wines, part of your checklist. Okay, we need bottle shots. We need tasting descriptions. We need to add it to the wine club. We need to update the schema on the website. It's another item that needs to be done by somebody, or the check in the box needs to be checked off to know that it happened.
For Eric, do you have any data or insights to share regarding user behavior when scrolling around the map to look for results? For example, number of scrolls, clicks.
Gosh, I wish I did. Only Google has that information. I can tell you a good way to sort of monitor what people do when they get to your site. There's a free tool you can try called Hotjar. And the JavaScript code for this is kind of heavy. So when you're not using it, don't have it turned on because it will slow the site down a little. But what it'll do is it'll create session videos of what people do when they get to your site. And so that's a really good way to say, hey, we're getting a bunch of traffic to this page. We're not selling any wine. What's the problem? Well, that's where you can find out, hey, this pop-up's loading and people can't get by it, or the people are clicking the button over and over again and it's not working. So Hotjar would be a way to monitor that. But in terms of, at the maps level, knowing, what they're doing there, I mean, that's only Google knows that.
We have some design-related questions, but I think first I'd like to ask you, how would you recommend wineries change their e-commerce strategy to better address the younger audience?
I mean, I would say, you got to start doing video. You got to do video and you got to get on TikTok and on Instagram. And I would say, start working with influencers as well. I mean, you can see Ben talked about the thing they're doing with Snoop Dogg, they're swinging for the fences on that one. But, there's also a lot of small influencers in your community that you can engage. I don't know if you pay attention to your reviews on Google Business Profile, but some of those reviews will come from local influencers, or what's it called? Help me out, local authority or something? Local guide, right? So you'll if it's a local guide, you might reach out to that person, check them out. Maybe they've got a TikTok, maybe they've got an Instagram, maybe hit them up and invite them over. It's getting their patience is getting thinner. They want money at this point, but hey, you can try reaching out. However you do it, you need video content. And I think it's better if it's someone else's video content rather than yours.
And a social is just so huge. Even when I'm sitting on the couch, because I stay up till 2. Don't ask me why, I just do. I'm looking through Instagram. I have bought numerous things because it showed up on Instagram, and this is a great video. Some of these things, of course, were supposed to ended up being snake oil, miracle weight loss, this and that, and it was like, okay, that was $50. I'm not going to get back. But regardless, they hooked me. So creating content on these social channels. Even with TikTok, people think, isn't TikTok cute? Or isn't Instagram great? That's not real business. That's not real e-commerce. If that's what you think, you were dead wrong. People are going to Instagram, and depending on who they are, Facebook is still relevant to a certain, as we know, a certain genre of people. If you're of the awards generation and you're still buying $400 of 98-point Cabernet, a Facebook video that talks about the land and the winery dog is a great thing. But to my point of not putting all this stuff on the website, you utilize these social channels for all this great new content and what's happening now. And here we are in the vineyard today. We just, things that we think are boring. We just plowed the field. And it's like, well, okay, why is that important? Well, to someone in Nebraska, it's like, wow, look at that. Isn't that cool? And those things on social will drive traffic and also get you out there. People will remember those things. So social's just huge.
One more thing on social. So, in the early days of Google, the way that we would rank is we would stuff our pages with keywords. And Google realized that, and then they started disqualifying it, and we had to get more clever. But in terms of social media, the stuff that we used to do works for SEO. So if you want to search optimize your video on TikTok, just say wine tasting over and over again. And their algorithm will convert that to text. And when someone searches wine tasting, you're going to come up. Or just say, Carneros region, I don't know, Syrah, whatever it might be. Keyword stuffing works over and over again. And you can do it in the spoken word on these social platforms when you do videos.
Lost my screen, sorry. One more question about statistics. Is there a way to track how or from where a specific contact found their way into your database, tasting room, or website?
What was it at the very beginning of the question?
Is there a way to track how or from where a specific contact found their way into your customer database, tasting room, or website?
Well, if you're playing by the rules, and you're using a newsletter sign up or some other sort of sign up, you can tailor where that came from, especially if you're tagging in the MailChimp or Klaviyo. You can say this was a website sign up. This sign up happened at a wine tasting that we did. This came from an event. These were imported from the owner's personal contacts. And so you would tag things that way. As for random visitors that show up on your website, there are ways. There's an AI tool out there, and I forget the name right now. We talked about it at the Concord event, but it will actually harvest email addresses from people that just land on your website and have not even interacted with you. And technically, this is still legal because it's a big gray area. So you could actually even add them in, get them into a list and put them into your D2C tools as randomly landed on website. But yeah, depending on what you're using to communicate with, there's definitely ways to keep track of who your contact types are, and then tailor to them. I only want to send that to this group, and this group. I don't know if that answered the question.
This is a combination of a few questions, so give me just a moment and then you guys can pipe in. Can you name a few of your favorite winery websites? What do you like about them? Wine websites tend to be focused on vineyard visuals and bottle shots to the point where they all look the same. How can a winery stand out? Yeah, I think those two.
You know, the wine industry, as we know, is different. People tend to, when I go to a winery website, I tend to want it to behave like a winery website. Because I'm not, I want to buy wine. I want to visit. I want to see events. I don't want to have to look around and have a creative name for the shop page. I mean, if your page is, join us, and that's where your store is. Well, I'm not going to look at join us to go buy wine. Make it clear and simple to buy wine. When people get there, buy wine, click that, there's the wine, buy now. I mean, to me, that those are important workflows. As far as my favorite winery websites, I'm not going to give anybody favorites. There are good ones and there are bad ones. But I tend to look at it as, is this a good functional website, or is this bad functionality? I go there and it's a huge, the only call to action is watch the video. I know, is that really what your website is for, to make them watch the 2.5-minute video of your drone footage over your lake? If your winery website's to sell wine, the first call to action I want to see is buy wine.
To add on to those questions, are there any specific website trends, design or otherwise, that you see outside of the wine industry that wineries should consider implementing?
I really think having a different mobile experience is huge. Don't dish them every single page on mobile. Find out what your mobile traffic is using. Find out where they're going. Like I say, if mobile traffic isn't using 75% of your site, why are all that page and all those content loading on a mobile view? With the page builders that are in WordPress these days and the technology that's available, you can say, hey, on mobile, just load this. And those people get a faster, more lean, more streamlined mobile experience because, like I say, two-thirds of the people and rising. I mean, I know people who don't have a computer. This is their computer. This is the only thing they have. And that's just those numbers are just going to get higher. Outside of the wine industry, we do a lot of like construction sites sometimes and volunteer websites that really wouldn't apply. As far as e-commerce, those people, they're straight and to the point. Buy now. Here's our products. Buy them.
If you want an example of best practices for e-commerce, just go to Amazon. They've got it wired for you, so that's your guide. Ben, when he did his keynote, put up a graph of why people go to wineries. And these were the reasons. I took a picture of it. I'm looking at it on my phone. 1 was beautiful locations. 2 was laid-back atmosphere. 3 was connect with wineries. 4 was expand palate, try new wines. And 5 was cultural and historical immersion. And so really, your website has to communicate that, however you do that, right? So it's all about the story. It's all about the glamour. It's all about the mystique. It's all about the luxury. It's all about the laid-back experience that you're providing. And somehow you've got to communicate that through a website. So while Amazon may be great as a guide for technical functionality, it's not a great guide for aesthetic functionality, right? And honestly, I don't think you should go to someone else's website and try to do that. You really need to define, what's unique about your brand and then try to communicate that into a visual experience on a website.
I think you really have to know the audience that you're trying to target as well. Those points that you made, those are beautiful, and that is the way things are going for the new generation of people that are coming to wineries and that are winery visitors. But there's still a whole lot of people out there that like the traditional way. And so knowing who your audience is and knowing who you're trying to get as your audience is just as important when it comes to figuring out what you want your website to do and how you want it to behave for you. So if you're appealing to the mass market and you're selling wine at Walmart, that's a whole different thing than if you're trying to get scores on Parker. So.
One last question. Any successful strategies you've seen to drive UGC?
The best strategies I see for driving UCG are experiences that inspire people to take pictures, that make people want to showcase what they're doing for other people. And so I think, setting up the photo op that you just gotta have is probably the best strategy. And the more unique that photo op is, I think the better strategy it is. So it's going to probably cost some money. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an original piece of art that you've created, or if it's a environment that you've curated, or if it's a deck with a view. But somehow, you got to try to inspire that photo op, and hopefully it's going to be branded.
Yeah, the de facto and all that is, in Napa, there's a Napa sign. There's a line of people waiting to get their picture taken with the Napa sign. I know people that go to like Mexico, to Saluda, or I've said that wrong, but there's a sign and they all stand in line to take their picture in front of it. Having JCB has done that a lot with his art and these bizarre photo ops and these sculptures. Have something that ends up being so cool that it's like when we go there, we've got to get our picture taken with this thing. And then they're putting it out on Instagram. Make sure they properly know, put a little sign, hashtag us with this, and guide them in helping them promote your brand while they're bragging about where they are. People have to brag about what they're doing and where they are, and isn't our life great, and nothing ever goes bad with our life. Here we are at this winery. So help them with that.
We're out of time. So thank you to both of you. I hope everyone learned some new ideas. Thanks so much.